Hello, my name is Scott Hicks, and I'm the Director of the Teaching and Learning Center at UNC Pembroke. I'm happy to be joined today by Dr. Camille Locklear Goins. She's an assistant professor in the Educational Leadership and Specialties Department of the School of Education and the project director for the First Americans Educational Leadership Program. Dr. Goins, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for
Who's
having
the,
me.
who's the best teacher you've ever had and why?
The best teacher I ever had was my senior English teacher. I won't say her name, but she was my English teacher in my senior year. And the reason she was my best teacher, she was the one that I can remember that actually took the time out to get to know who I was and why I was going through some of the difficulties in my senior year and posed a lot of questions and helped me reflect on what I was doing and how to get better. She allowed me to write autobiography. And I actually mentioned her in my dissertation, saying thank you for allowing me to share my story. And she helped me to become a writer. I always loved to read and write, but she helped me in the writing process. But she was the first that I can remember that actually took interest in me beyond the classroom. And that meant a lot to me, especially being in my senior year.
That would mean a lot to me too.
Right.
What does it take to be a good professor in higher education in 2021?
Going back to my English teacher, I think it takes a professor getting to know students beyond the classroom. So that's what I try to do. I am a graduate professor. I have taught freshman seminar, but even in my freshman seminar class, getting to know my students outside of the classroom, asking them, even when I come into the classroom and we teach, and I know something that happened at their school or in their personal lives, I'll ask them how they're doing, and we'll engage in a conversation beyond just the coursework. So, seeming to take that response to them gives them an open door to be more open with you, and you're more approachable. Um, so that's what I think. We need to be approachable. I know that we are in academia and sometimes we are the authoritative person in that classroom, and we do have to have high expectations and we do place those demands on those students. But they also need to know that we are personable and that we're all human and we're all working towards. And I learn a lot from them by engaging in these conversations. So I think it takes a humbling, you have to be humble as a professor and really try to get to know your students and understand their perspectives and where they're coming from and empathize with them on that level. Especially now that we have experienced such situations as what we've seen in the pandemic, understanding that there's a lot more going on than just that coursework that we have to do, and making sure that they're still successful in the classroom and be able to balance and manage their time well throughout this process.
That's so true.
Mhm.
Tell us a story about something creative that you've done to engage your students.
I'm going to give you a couple of things if that's okay. So, one of the things I started to implement, and it's a culturally responsive practice, is that I survey my students throughout the entire semester. I do one at the beginning of the year to learn more about them, their learning preferences, things that they could tell me that would help me to make their learning experience better. So it helps me tailor my lessons or my instructional practices to some of the things that they may have mentioned in that survey. About 4 weeks in, I do a check in. I provided some contemplative practices in my class this semester. So I used some instructional technology tools and have given them contemplative practices each week that they could practice to help them find balance and manage their time, and also become more mindful of their emotions if they feel like they're getting overwhelmed. And then I do a mid-semester check-in to ask them what's going well, what would they like for me to change, or keep doing the same? And that gives me some input midway to even reshape some of the things that I have in store for the remainder of the semester. So those surveys have been very beneficial to me in changing my instructional practices and to better support them. Um, Let's see, some of the other creative things that I have found very useful in my program and in the courses that I teach is doing a lot of role playing. So not just having them read, and I teach a hybrid class, so I've implemented the flipped classroom model where they watch my lessons outside of class. So when we come to class, that time is spent in a lot of dialogue and inquiry and active role play and them doing some practical applications in the classroom so they can see it in practice. So we go through and do role play, and then we allow their classmates to give them feedback on how they did, or affirm, affirmations throughout that process. Try not to be negative in the way they do anything, but help them to see some of the areas that they may can improve in those role playing assignments. And that has been some things that students have said have helped them to better understand the course material. And even when they go back to their career practice, they see things differently after engaging in those role plays.
Thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you so much.
and best wishes for the rest of your spring 2021 semester.
Thank you.